Hello, folks. Welcome to Business Spotlight. My guest today spent the early part of his career working at one of the world's largest advertising agencies. He then left and co-founded his agency with three other partners, which he exited, having grown it to more than 50 employees. His background is in branding and marketing and strategy. I'm delighted to introduce you to my guest today, Martin Carmody. Let's dive straight in. Martin, share us the story behind how you started your business.
Stumbled upon a very big opportunity within, as you mentioned, a large advertising agency, Ogilvy. At the time, predominantly working in London on global brands, and then kind of working my way through my own journey as a creative, becoming a freelancer and working with a myriad of clients, developing my own skill set, working with some very talented people, and essentially ending up having the appetite to grow my own business. So in 2012, we developed a startup business, an agency in Milton Keynes called White Leopard. I was a co-founder. There was four of us involved, and we grew that business in 2012 to 2016 to around about 14 people. We decided to purchase another agency in Milton Keynes, and we went through the process of basically merging the people, the culture, developing the client list, and taking the business to the next level. More recently, stepping out of that business in 2021, I've become, as you said, a brand consultant, working with various agencies of different shapes and sizes, and also working directly with brands on their strategy as well.
You grew a fantastic business with your co-founders, and you're now growing four more. What have been the biggest challenges that you've faced since you started your business, and how did you overcome them?
Obviously, a startup business, you have to get your brand right, you have to gain the awareness, you have to make sure you're saying the right things and you're trying to attract the right audiences. The biggest thing for me is people in agencies. We have to have the right talent. We have to be working with like-minded people. We have to have the clients that get us and vice versa. And then the other side of it, which sometimes gets missed, is investing in your time and your budget into the right systems, the process, operational side of the business, which when there's a team of 2, 3, 4 of you sitting there in a studio and developing great work, sometimes it's one of the things that can get missed. But as you grow and you have to make sure that everyone is aligned and they are doing the right things at the right time, it is fundamentally important. Back in 2012, when we did have the startup business, we did invest heavily in the right systems. As an agency, we're essentially measuring time and brand value to whichever projects we're producing. So those kind of things is the information that informs us on the right business decisions going forward, and probably meant that we could make those decisions at the right time and grow the agency as swiftly as we did.
We often talk, Martin, about creating brands. A lot of business owners think about creating their brands, but you're an expert at doing that, right? So let's take the opportunity to ask you. I was going to ask you, how did you create your own brand? But why don't we kind of broaden that a little bit around, what's your advice? What's your advice for anybody creating a brand?
We have to take a strategic view on it. We have to understand the business objectives. So as a creative agency, we don't hone in on any one sector. We do very much have a varied pool of clients, and we really enjoy that. And actually the team get a lot from that, having that variation. However, we need to really understand what are the business objectives for whatever business that may be in whichever sector. What are their goals? What are their targets? So we can really delve into that target audience. I have had situations where we've had businesses come to us and ask for a rebrand or a brand evolution, where the decision does sit with the owners or the CEO or the MD, which is one thing. But however, it's really, really important that we do understand what the audience needs to see, hear and feel when they're engaging with you, rather than what somebody at a certain level on the C-suite of the business feel when they see it. Doing the right due diligence, the insight, the research, the discovery, and really delving into what they want to achieve from their business, so we can then tune the brand into talking that way.
I love the last bit that you said there. You talked about being sort of outside in rather than inside out. So it's not what the C-suite wants to communicate to the market, right? It's about what the market wants to hear. There's a great phrase going around that content is king and consistency is queen, right, Martin? And it's often said that the queen rules the house. So what are your thoughts about consistency when it comes to branding?
It's one of the core elements, Mark. Consistency is everything, whether it's what you hear from the brand, what you see, what you feel, what you experience, whether that's from an event, whether it's a social media strategy, whether it's online, whether it's offline, everything needs to be clear. We need to make sure that we are projecting the proposition, the offer of that brand or business in the right way, and it's being received clear and concisely. It's a very, very saturated market out there. And to cut through the noise, you have to be clear on what you're offering people and what value you can give a brand or a team or a business.
There's always new marketing stuff coming, right? And in a fast-paced business and world that you live in, how do you bring innovation and creativity into your businesses?
I'm a real advocate of investing in training, development, R&D, insight, industry knowledge. You're right. It's a very fast-paced industry. When we sometimes sit there and try and understand and try and delve into things ourselves and just trying to absorb everything ourselves, we can become very much entrenched into what we do know. It's what we don't know that's really, really exciting. So I suppose the key thing for me is keeping everyone curious, making sure that the team have that valuable time where they can actually visit events, get exposure to other ways of thinking, be involved in things as well. That's kind of the key ring, really, just broadening our horizons and not being too naive about that as well.
You've been a successful business owner, Martin, in your own right, and you've built lots of other successful brands as well. Have there been any pivotal moments or decisions that have kind of really impacted the growth of the businesses that you've worked in?
A few scenarios. So one is very much the merger we went through in 2016, where we went from a 15 people team to almost a 40 people team overnight. And obviously we then brought in different layers and the organization changed as in structurally as well. But more recently, bringing one of the agencies I'm involved in from quite a rural area into the heart of Milton Keynes. And I think that's been quite a pivotal time for that particular agency, because essentially we've picked the team up, we've dropped them into central Milton Keynes. It's a very different environment, but what it does give us is a huge opportunity within Milton Keynes. And strategically, the reason why we did that was because of the target audience of that agency, which is essentially SME businesses. And as we know, Milton Keynes is riddled with SMEs, and huge opportunity.
You've had a brilliant career, Martin, and you've had a lot of success along the way, but I'm sure it's not all been a bed of roses, right? And there must have been some setbacks. So how do you handle and respond to setbacks? How do you manage failure? What lessons have you learned from
the core lesson from me, Mark, is you can't get too emotional, which is really difficult, right? As you're trying to grow a business and you're very passionate about what you're trying to achieve. And my biggest learning is you have to take that emotion out of whatever you're trying to achieve. And if you're not successful, then take the learnings from it. Make sure that you do get clear and concise feedback, just so you can kind of experience that feedback, but also take it into your next opportunity as well.
You're a busy guy as an entrepreneur. You're a family guy as well. We were just talking off camera. It's GCSE season right now, isn't it? So how do you maintain that balance between being a husband, a parent, and a business owner as well? How do you keep all of that in check?
There's peaks and troughs. I always make sure, so again, growing a startup agency, the annual leave wasn't really a thing. As time's gone by, I've felt that's a lot more important to me. So family time is important. We do make sure we do plug in those holiday time, whatever it may be, even if it's just being at home or going away abroad, whatever it might be. But I think the key thing for me is switching off at the weekend. So we're constantly accessible these days, and I think all you can do is sort of mitigate the risk of being contacted if it's not super urgent. I think that's the key thing as well. The only other thing I will say is making sure, again, going back to one of the first points, is having the right systems and processes in place to make sure that the capacity that you have within a team, an agency, a business is at the right level. And that's being measured, and so there isn't the pressure to work overtime, to work weekends, and it's all managed and the client expectations are met.
One of the things I hear most commonly, Martin, I'm sure you hear this all the time, people say to me, Mark, I need more leads. You do this for a living, right? So tell me, what has worked? What's been effective for you as marketing strategies and growth strategies in your own business? And what are you currently recommending to your clients?
For me personally, it's always been LinkedIn is my go-to. So, the audience we're trying to attract do tend to connect, network on LinkedIn. Trying to gain as much awareness as, again, to our proposition. I'm not a salesperson, so I will always be quite sophisticated and strategic with my approach. I'll always be very honest about what we can do for brands and businesses, and essentially put that information out there. And I do find LinkedIn is probably one of the most powerful forums that we can engage with. The other area is obviously social media, and I think there's three core strands to that. One's making sure it's got a purpose. The other one is making sure it's believable, and the third one is making sure that the brand proposition is clear and concise.
It's often said that people buy from people, right? And I think as you've just kind of alluded to, and it's becoming more and more the case now, that building relationships is really key. So what role has that played in your entrepreneurial journey and with what you're doing with your clients now?
Again, going back to the startup business, I'd never really worked in Milton Keynes or surrounding areas. I'd always sort of gone within the M25 to work, and it was very much me and the team going out and experience networking and events and gatherings and huddles and whatever it might have been, just to kind of understand who's there and actually, is it right for us? We have to make sure we look after what we've got. That's the key thing. There's a lot of hype usually around new clients, which is great, new shiny brands to work with. However, we can't forget what we've already got and the relationships we've already built. And I think that method and that way of working and being proactive and curious about their next steps is just as important as the next shiny new brand to work with.
We said earlier that you're in a fast-moving business, a fast-moving industry. How do you stay up to date with what's going on with trends and new technology to make sure that you're staying competitive?
Attending industry events. So again, I'm a real advocate of investing in the right areas. So me personally, I'll always look to go to events such as drum industry events. I'll also make sure that I'm involved in the right forums and gathering that right insight, encouraging the team to do the same as well, because at the end of the day, it can't all be down to one person. We all have to have sort of responsibility and accountability to gain as much knowledge as we can and be aware of what's coming next. So yeah, it's very much a team effort. The other thing is obviously bringing in the right people at the right time. There's a lot of great creative people out there, digital thinkers, strategic heads that can offer so much more because they've been out and experienced doing it for themselves somewhere else, whether that's an agency, whether that's freelance, consultative, whatever it might be. So again, for me, it's about bringing in the joined up thinking and making it a collaborative approach.
You crossed the divide from big agency world, co-founded your own agency, so you know what that journey's like, and now you're working to help, in multiple agencies, helping to grow lots and lots of brands. So you're very, very experienced as an entrepreneur. What advice would you give to other people that haven't yet traveled that journey so far? What advice would you give to people looking to start their own business or are early in that journey?
It's the foundations. You have to have the foundations right to try and build something that isn't thoroughly thought through. Things can quickly hit you at pace and you need to be ready. And I've seen it many a times where we go into a business and there's things broken because the planning wasn't there, or the pause button wasn't hit because the momentum was there and the revenue and it was all good stuff. But sometimes that can be a hindrance later on as well. So it is very much getting the right operational process, commercial, financial, wherever it might be, structure into the business at the start. And the other real core thing for me is sharing the vision of the business as well. And by that, I mean with the team and making them feel part of it. because again, it can't just be one person driving this. Yes, there will be someone that potentially started up the business, or there'll be a few people that started up the business, but the whole team, and as it grows, they all have to believe in where you're going, because it just makes it so much easier when you are hitting challenges and everybody's on board and everyone's trying to find solutions rather than just one or two people.
Fantastic, Martin. You've been a brilliant guest. Thank you so much for sharing your insights today. It's been a pleasure to have you on. Folks, if you'd like to come and join us on Business Spotlight, we'd love to see you. Come and share your story like Martin just has done, and we can get your message out far and wide. Just comment, apply below. We'll interview you, we'll do a recording, and we'll get your message out there. So we can't wait to hear from you. Till next time, thanks for joining. Bye for now.